Hello all and welcome to the Live at Home series. We're joined today by my favorite person. You may know her as the other half of Grex. She's also a reputable biologist, a peerless wife and mother, and frankly one of the smartest people I know. Let's give it up for Margaret Rei Scampavia.
What's up?
Thanks for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, glad I could fit it in.
That's what she said. To kick things off, we're excited to be gearing up for Bukas, a project that premieres in the Bay Area on May 27 and 28. We'll be joined by a murderer's row of friends and musical masters, the great Andrew Cyrille of the Cecil Taylor Unit, Asian Improv Arts, co-founder Francis Wong, poet-saxophonist Louis Jordan, and bassist Lisa Mezzacappa. In Tagalog, Bukas means tomorrow, so this piece is all about looking ahead. As a mixed-race woman who at this point has nearly 2 decades of performance experience under her belt, how have things improved for women in experimental music, and what still needs to change?
You think things have improved?
What are your? Why don't you speak to the audience a bit about your experiences as a touring musician who's a woman?
Well, I think that there actually has been a pretty marked difference in the past 15 years or so from when we started. When we first started playing music and touring, I'd be pretty conspicuously, most of the time, the only woman on the bill. And more often than not, the two of us would be the only people of color on the whole bill.
Sure. What do you think accounts for that change?
I think a lot of it is a byproduct of the Me Too movement and also Black Lives Matter. There were some pretty high-profile cases of violence and harassment against women and people of color that shone a light on that situation, and I think it made a lot of curators reevaluate the choices that they were making.
Who are some of your role models who are women operating in the field that we operate in?
Well, a big one would be when I was at Mills College, Maggie Payne, recording and sound artist.
Now retired, but she was also one of my teachers. Fantastic.
Fantastic, and very supportive.
Very supportive, very positive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would also say that I am a big fan of Karl.
Composer, pianist, arranger.
Great hair.
Fantastic hair. Karl has some of the greatest hair, I think, in the canon. I would say. Anyone else?
Sure. Well, there are a lot of singers or singer-songwriters that I really love. More recently, there's Mitski. Going back, there's Fiona Apple. There's Linda Sharrock.
I don't know if I'd classify Linda Sharrock as a singer-songwriter.
Well, she sings. Does she write songs? Alice Coltrane. I can't believe I didn't mention Alice Coltrane before.
You didn't mention a lot of people.
I deeply regret not mentioning all of the people I didn't mention.
I think that covers your bases. You know, this is something that's interesting. There is this long history of prejudicial, critical appraisals of women who collaborate with their partners in this music, and it has inflicted itself upon musicians whom I know that we both admire. People like Alice Coltrane, of course, married to John Coltrane. Yoko Ono, that's a big one. Do you think you've experienced any prejudice, any like in terms of people targeting your legitimacy as an artist just because you work with your husband?
Right. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that the answer to that question is yes, but I would say that for a lot of those women we mentioned, they came up in an era where, as a woman, they might never have gotten the opportunity to lead a band on their own.
It is a That is a really
if
pointed...
not attached to a man. So whether or not you think that the legitimacy of their work solo was equal to that of their partner, which I think is really honestly such a loaded thing to even consider. But even if you were considering that, I think it's worth pointing out that they didn't really necessarily have any other avenues to pursue those kinds of opportunities on their own.
I don't want to mansplain anything.
Oh, mansplain away.
But I feel like the entire prospect of like, what is the artistic merit of Alice Coltrane's work is always couched in, because we know John Coltrane's work has value. So what is the merit of Alice Coltrane's work? And I feel like that thesis, like just even asking that question based on those principles, is in and of itself prejudicial and wrong-headed.
It is. And I feel the same way about Yoko Ono. She gets a lot of hate.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like comparing her work to the Beatles is like comparing apples and oranges, because they're just completely different.
If you're comfortable, can you talk about what it means to be a queer person in our field?
Well, I think I'm in good company because there are quite a few queer musicians, more than you know, probably.
Why do you talk about it like you're X-Men?
Because the X-Men are also pretty gay.
So one of the many advantages of our walks is witnessing the state of California and all of its quasi-natural beauty. What drew you to California as someone who grew up on the other side of the country?
Well, initially it's because I spent here as a child, because most of my extended family lives out here, and it was just so different than what I experienced in the past. One more time.
What is it that drew you to California as someone who grew up on the other side of the country?
Well, initially it's that I would spend time here when I was younger, because most of my extended family lives out here, and I just wanted to be somewhere that was really different than where I grew up. But California is a really beautiful place. It's actually one of the most diverse floristic provinces in the country.
I'm a big fan of floristic provinces.
As you should be.
What kept you here?
You.
I don't want to get too personal.
Well, don't take it too personally then.
Can you explain to the audience, the uninitiated, what exactly is a Grex?
Grex is a term for a certain life stage of certain slime molds, which is a little amoeba-like creature that usually they all sort of roam about doing their own thing. But when resources are scarce, they come together to form a larger structure called a Grex.
Do you think that we are more like a Grex now that Baby Malcolm exists?
I think
I feel like you have a very well realized voice as a composer. How important is collaboration to your compositional process?
extremely.
What do you look for in a collaborator?
Someone who has good ideas but also listens.
Do you like, when it comes to a composition that you've generated, do you really like driving the ship on the arrangement, or do you like it when other people kind of intervene and kind of interject their own ideas into how your music is supposed to sound?
Well, I think ideally any ship should have 2 captains.
What about the Titanic?
Well, there's your problem right there.
Where are we today?
We're at the 99 Ranch Mall
Why did we come here?
to conduct the rest of our interview.
And
I would like to go get some Kit Kats.
I thought that we were here to get Malcolm out of the house.
Yes.
Your feelings on the situation. How has being a mother changed your approach to life?
Oh, it's changed everything.
Well, in what way?
It's forced me to be a lot more optimistic.
How optimistic?
Well, before, when I'm gone, but now I have to think about what the world will be like when Malcolm is old.
I think being a father has made me exceptionally aware of my own mortality and my responsibility toward my own health, because someone's got to watch this kid for a while. So how do you think being a parent has changed your artistic practice?
Well, now all my songs are about babies.
Is that true? Like, what's an example of a song for a baby?
Hello, baby toes.
How do you feel about songs geared toward the enjoyment of children, Malcolm? All right, we'll be right back with more Margaret Rei Scampavia.
Welcome back. We're here with Rei Scampavia.
And Malcolm's asleep, so now we can curse as much as we want.
I wanted to touch base on this wild fact. Grex is 16 years old as of this fall. Tough question to answer, but what keeps you coming back after all these years?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Before we split, is there anything else you'd like to say?
It's been a pleasure.
That's what she said. Karl Evangelista's Bukas, featuring Rei Scampavia, who is my everything, premieres May 27 at the Lab in San Francisco and May 28 at Oaktown Jazz Workshops in Oakland. Cool.